was over, still there was a fire burning in my heart. There were days I felt like I was at my lowest. I pushed so hard I couldn't see beyond the pain. I never knew I'd made it high enough to notice I'm getting closer, stronger than I've ever been. I believe that I'm unstoppable. I believe I've only just begun. I will conquer, I will fly, reach my peak, I will. And there's nothing that can ever bring me down. I am living proof that nothing is impossible. I beat the odds when hope was nowhere to be found. There was a strength that carried me through every obstacle. It lets me know that it's too late to give up now. And I am not afraid to climb another mountain, to risk it all, to face my deepest, darkest fear, to live a dream much bigger than I can imagine, because I want the world to know that I am here. I believe that I'm unstoppable. I believe I've only just begun. I will conquer, I will fly, reach my peak, I will. And there's nothing that can ever bring me down. I'm one dream away from everything I hope to be. I am one step closer to the finish line. I know that every stride will bring me to my destiny. And I'm one reach away from taking what is mine. I believe that I'm unstoppable. And I believe I've only just begun. I will conquer, I will fly, and reach my peak, I will. And there's nothing that can ever bring me down. And I believe that dreams are untamable. And I believe that wings were made to fly. I'll touch the sky, reach for the stars, do the impossible. I believe that nothing can. I believe that nothing will. I believe nothing can ever bring me down. there is something I'm not sure we've done today, and I just want to crave your indulgence, if you will. I think it is important that we put our hands together for the organizing team that put this together. Please. So I'm going to set a timer on my phone, and I'm going to try and share with you in about 7 minutes or so. And I hope that in 7 minutes I'm able to, as we say in Nigerian debating parlance, I'm able to convince you and not confuse you. Anyway, I'm kidding. But after 7 minutes, I hope that I'm done with my talk. So have you guys ever thought about how American movie villains, you know, the movie villains we used to call bulls back in the day? How many of you remember that? Yeah. Have you ever thought about how they have evolved over the years and how that has shaped how Americans see the world? Like during the Cold War, a lot of American movies featured Russian villains who wanted to take over the world. And there was a time when nearly every bad guy in, you know, an American movie was Chinese. And every African spoke with a weird accent and didn't know how a telephone worked. You know, through these movies, a lot of Americans saw the world. And so they thought, you know, every Russian wanted to take over the world. They felt every Chinese national wanted to harm them, and generally assumed that every African lived in a hut and had no idea how technology worked. These things were, of course, not true. But because the media said it was, it became the reality for a lot of Americans. Another thing I think that became a reality, not just for Americans, but for us, is the fact that following a gunshot closely, the sound of a gunshot closely, would be the response of a police team. And that was sold to us. And whether or not that is true, well, we all believed it. And there was also a time when American music dominated the airwaves. Every drive time show in Nigeria was playing Return of the Mac, you know, Notorious B.I.G., Snoop Dogg, and so on. Because of this, most Nigerians knew only American music. But something changed in I think it was the early or the mid-90s / late 2000s. That was when Ray Power 100 came up, right? The mid-90s. Does anybody remember? Keke and D1, Prime Time. Yes. Something happened, and all of a sudden, Nigerian artists began to dominate the airwaves. And today, Nigerian music is all the rage. I mean, we're having the likes of Wizkid, Davido, and others, you know, performing in other countries. I mean, for instance, I heard that some time ago, Davido actually sold out a show in Suriname. Now, guys, I don't know where Suriname is. You know, but apparently, they know banana fall on you over there. You know, so what we see now is that Nigerians rate Nigerian music, and because of that, other countries rate Nigerian music. What made the difference? If you ask me, I would say intentionality. You know, the intention to pass a certain narrative across so that people perceive things in a way you want. And this is what I think will not only change the Nigerian entertainment industry, but would also revolutionize the thinking of the ordinary Nigerian. I've always been intentional, right from an early age. I'll tell you guys a story. So for the three of you in the room who probably don't know this by now, let me just introduce myself to you a little differently. I'm blind. I don't know how many of you have noticed. So if I say to you, oh, hey guys, you're actually looking quite beautiful today, I have no idea what I'm talking about. So I went to secondary school with visually impaired and, you know, sighted guys. And at the time, there was a bit of a disconnect between people like me and the boys in school. Me, I just wanted friends. And I, you know, had negotiating skills. And I had to be intentional about making friends. So here's what I did. When everyone in school was talking, you know, talking about games and music and all of that, I would chip in and say something like, so who here has played Tekken or who has played Street Fighter 2? You know, everyone would keep quiet. And what was going through their head, I'm sure, is a blind guy shouldn't be saying that. Now, I was also the guy who was dubbing R. Kelly tapes, you know, for just about everybody. I had a big deck. And, while other blind students listened to more classical music, I was making tapes for people. So this, in a sense, made me the cool blind kid in D6 who listened to R. Kelly and knew, about games. It was a skill I always had, but I was intentional about how I used it. Why? Because I figured I needed to exist in a more vertical, more secular world that did not just comprise of only blind people. So I had to be intentional to break into the world that it appeared my other blind peers didn't fit in, simply because of their blindness. And this got me results. It was the same when I decided to enter the Nigerian music space. I thought to myself, I don't know any other blind music producer in Nigeria, but what a joy it would be, for me to work as many times as hard as I absolutely could just to make sure that I made that mark. And so, I started. And then I was intentional about the kind of music I was making at the time. Many people perceived my music in a certain way, and that's because I was clearly intentional about how I made it. I think the same intentionality needs to be brought to our entertainment space, to our business, to politics, to culture. I think it's one of the first steps to our future. Intentionality is important also, I think, because it comes with adversity. It also makes adversity easy to deal with. Because here's the thing. If you have no intentionality about what you want to do, it's very easy to be derailed, discouraged, and ultimately stopped. But with a goal, a clear motive, and intention, you become unstoppable, literally. The Nigerian entertainment space, I feel, needs to do this. What do we want to be known for? So I listen to old-time radio a lot. And I listen to this program called The Whistler. It used to play in the 40s, in the 30s and 40s. And what they would do was they would set the perfect murder scenario. And they would sort of show how you could not get away with it. And I think what that did for the radio listening American community at the time was, look, you cannot get away with murder. And it was interesting because to me it felt like Hollywood, as it were, was almost a government intervention in the reorientation of the mind of the ordinary citizen to think that good always triumphs over evil. There is so much pop culture in our space right now. And, I wonder if our musicians are influenced to sing about certain things, and I mean, just not generally always. I realize there's a big space for sexualizing, and that sort of thing. And if we dealt with that differently, what would we be saying to the young generation? And this informs my music. I think that, if we're put forward to be a one-dimensional people, that is exactly what the world will see of us. That's what the world will take for us. If we continue to make movies where we paint ourselves in a bad light, then the hopelessness seeps into the general Nigerian consciousness. And it also affects how we're perceived in the world. For collective intentionality to become a reality, individual intentionality must be attained. You, every single one of you must realize that your individual intentions affect the whole. Okay, so I produce a different kind of music. And because I do what I do and I make the kind of music I make, there's generally a belief that someone else can make that sort of music. That there's an alternative way of doing your music, of making your music and being respected for it. If the next person also carries on with this same intention, then a number of people are influenced. It's like a butterfly effect or a stack of falling dominoes. I matter. What I do matters, and so does what you do. So I went to see The King of Boys with my team recently. How many of you have checked out that movie? If you haven't, I suggest you do. You should check out King of Boys. And it was a 3-hour movie that I watched without getting bored once. If that movie can inspire a filmmaker to do something, that can be that good, then it means that the intentionality of Kemi Adetiba has influenced someone else who could go on to use his or her intentionality to spark a change. It's a concept that works in every sphere of society, like I said before, from entertainment to business to politics. It's the power of one. I think, it is why I believe that we can spark a change even in the next elections. That if we start to believe that we matter, that you matter, that I matter, that the intentions as to how you want to live your life and what you want to do with your life can influence an entire generation, we can bring about so much change. It is not the job of the elites. It is not the job of the government. It is for all of us. It's a changing of the mindset that goes on to change everything around us. It is literally ordinary people doing ordinary things with intention and going about to bring extraordinary change. I matter. And so do you. As a matter of fact, you matter so much that it is almost terrifying. You matter so much that without you, things can't change. If there's anything I want you to take from this, it is that one, see, actions and intentions matter. Two, we cannot change the world unless we do it together with singular focus and purpose. And three, the intentionality of not just the media, but those of us who consume the product that is created and curated by our media. Because the media is seen as a gatekeeper, but we also have a role to play in what we allow and what we celebrate as what comes out of the media. That our intentionality can go a long way in creating change now and in the foreseeable future. I want to leave you with this thought. It's a thought from a song of mine. It's a very, very simple thought. And the thought is that the people who do absolutely extraordinary things are not people who are born with two hands or two heads or with multiple limbs or multiple heads. They're ordinary people like me and you who are doing extraordinary things. So in the words of the song I would sing, let us have a world of ordinary people living life the way God wants us to. And if we have a world of ordinary people, extraordinary things will happen to me